We eat food coloring every day. At the grocery store, caramel coloring is a commonly added ingredient across all aisles. Today, I'd like to talk to you about 3 different things. First, I'd like to tell you what synthetic food colorings are, the most common types. Second, I'd like to tell you what the negative side effects are of synthetic dyes. Third, I'd like to offer you some alternates to synthetic food coloring. Synthetic food coloring can be harmful for your health. First of all, we should start with a basic understanding of what synthetic food dyes are. What are synthetic food dyes and the most common types? Dr. Julie N. Burrows, Consumer Safety Officer in the Office of Cosmetics and Colorings, and colleagues, writes for the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, the FDA, explains that a color additive, as defined by regulation, is any dye, pigment, or other substance that can impart color to a food, drug, or cosmetic, or to the human body. When thinking about classic Skittles, we see the colors, and we already know what flavors to expect. Who else has ingrained green as lime, yellow as lemon, and red as cherry? Synthetic food dyes are typically derived from petroleum or other crude oil compounds, which have been refined, purified, and chemically altered for safe consumption. Carol Patera, who has been writing articles since 1996 for the Environmental Health Perspectives, the EHP, which is part of the U.S. National Library of Medicine, the NLM, and National Center for Biotechnology Information, the NCBI, says that the most common types are red 40, yellow 5, and yellow 6. These account for about 90% of the dyes used in food in the U.S. Now that we've learned more about synthetic food dyes, let's move on to some of the more negative side effects of synthetic dyes. The negative side effects from synthetic food dyes. One of the common ones is allergic reactions like hives or asthma. NLM and NCBI writers Dr. Eugene L. Arnold and colleagues from the Department of Psychology studying ADHD at The Ohio State University, as well as part of the Niesinger Center, one of the nation's first federally funded university centers for excellence in developmental disabilities, explains that artificial food coloring is not the main cause of ADHD, but is enough at times to push sensitive children over the edge to a diagnosable level. Basically, it doesn't cause, but it can trigger. Another risk is the contamination of carcinogenic material. This means that cancer-causing stuff is found in 3 of the most common food dyes, but it's not enough for the laws to kick in. Dr. Sarah Kobolewski, with extensive knowledge of cellular and molecular biology and toxicology within the Molecular Toxicology program at the University of California, Los Angeles, and Dr. Michael F. Jacobson, with extensive knowledge of microbiology from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, and the executive director of the Center for Science in the Public Interest, and who also received the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention's Heroes Award, published their findings in Food Dyes, A Rainbow of Risk. They uncovered that not only did those 3 most popular food colorings in the U.S. cause allergic reactions, they also contain carcinogenic contaminants. Yellow 5 in particular also showed increased hyperactivity in children. Here is a photo of the most common colorings in the U.S. Bottom 3 are the ones we've been talking about the most. Red 40, yellow 5, and yellow 6. Might be easier for you to see a depiction on the actual monitor though. We've now covered the potential negative side effects of synthetic dyes. Let's move on to some of the natural alternatives. Some alternatives to synthetic food dyes. Brian Roehrig, a science teacher, has written over 8 different articles for the American Chemical Society, the ACS, one of the world's largest scientific organizations chartered by Congress and one of the world's leading sources of authoritative scientific information. Explains that natural dyes have been used for centuries to color foods. Some of the most common ones are carotenoids, chlorophyll, anthocyanin, and turmeric. Carotenoids are deep red, orange, and yellow colors, with the commonmost ones being beta-carotene. These are commonly found in foods like sweet potatoes and pumpkins. Chlorophyll is what gives all plants their green color. Anthocyanins are a dark red, blue, and purple, and these are typically found in things like red cabbage, blueberries, and grapes, and even in raw cocoa powder. Turmeric is a spice which imparts a deep yellow coloring. There's also something called cochineal dye, extracting from carminic acid in certain insects, which is also an edible coloring, which imparts a deep red coloration. Do any of you think you could eat dye from insects? For a little while, Starbucks Coffee Company used cochineal dye to naturally cover the color of their strawberry products before removing it due to customer complaints. But they replaced it with synthetic food dyes, so much healthier. While these are more natural, they either impart a mild flavor as well as they can't achieve that same colorful neon coloration. Also, most people don't like the thought of eating food coloring coming from bugs. Another option is the omission of food colorings altogether, but this is going to lead to a more bland looking food at least. We've covered a lot of information about food colorings today. Let's now summarize what we've learned. We've now learned more about synthetic food dyes and their effect. First, we learned synthetic food dyes are color additives made from a base of petroleum or other crude oil compounds which have been purified for consumption. The most common ones are red 40, yellow 5, and yellow 6. We've learned some of the negative side effects from synthetic food dyes. Side effects can include allergic reactions like hives and asthma, increased hyperactivity in already sensitive children, and the potential exposure to harmful carcinogens due to cross-contamination with dye. Lastly, we learned about natural coloring alternatives. These alternatives can range from extracting the colors from different fruits or veggies, extracting the color from insects, or even just total elimination as well. Synthetic food colorings can be harmful for your health. So next time you're in the grocery store, turn the package over and see where your color comes from.